Hi, welcome back here, everybody, to another episode of the Just Ballin' podcast. And an episode that I made here probably a few months ago. I talked about just kind of some early free agency predictions, what players could be available, who's going to opt out of their deal, who I could see leaving, and maybe some early fits for those said players. Now we are through a bunch of different playoff series. We have kickstarted off round 2, which has been amazing so far. We really went 3 for 3 so far. Great game 1 between the Cavs and Pacers. My Knicks, man, that game was a roller coaster of emotions, beating the Boston Celtics. And then you also had the Nuggets beating the Thunder on the road, stealing that game 1. I'm recording this before the Timberwolves and Warriors started that series, and you guys will see this before. So yeah, we're just going to talk about some free agents, what we've been hearing so far, where some players could be involved, and some playoff risers that could get a nice payday in the offseason. So I'm pretty much just going to go through spot tracks, like top or free agents available, and then it's just sorted by their current annual value. So LeBron is at the top, Fred VanVleet's number 2, Kyrie's at number 3, etc. So we'll start off with LeBron. I mean, the Lakers have been eliminated. I will say right now, if LeBron takes the $50 million, which he probably will, I do believe he has a player option, if I'm not wrong. Is it a player option? It is, for $52 million, which is 34% of the team's cap space. If he picks that up, the Lakers are not winning it all next year. He talked about taking a pay cut last year, which was like a $3 million pay cut, so I believe the Lakers got under the first apron. They're not building a championship team with the roster they have next year if LeBron takes that money, which is fine. Like, if somebody told me to take a $20 million pay cut, I don't know if I would want to agree with that either, no matter how much money I currently have, because LeBron is giving a lot for this franchise as a 41-year-old. He can enjoy retirement. He can go into the media. He can own a team probably. But he's out there playing a decent amount of games, more than a lot of guys that are half his age out there, and still showed up in the playoffs. Not the LeBron of old, but still a good player. But if he's making, like I said, 34% of the team's cap space, they're not winning a title next year. This Lakers team is still tiers below OKC, maybe even Denver, clearly Minnesota, and they need to add rim protection this offseason. They don't have the best bench in the world. We assume that they're going to add a big man by some means. Either it's a Claxton, Aiden, Capela, one of those guys. But if LeBron is making 50 plus, Luka's making the same. You want to keep Reeves. Maybe they move Connect, but yeah, I just don't like. If LeBron gave you $30 million a year of flexibility, you got your full mid-level exception, you got a non-taxpayer, you had money on the margins to make a move, then I think you could build a title team next year. It's just, I don't think it's wise for the Lakers in general to trade future picks. Well, okay, so it's a little bit better now that you have Luka. If you traded those future picks to build around AD, a little scarier, but still, like, unless you're mortgaging those future first-round picks that you gave up for Mark Williams and some other ones, for 1 year of LeBron's last hurrah, and you guys lose in round number 1 or 2, which is probably going to be as expected, I just don't think that's worth it. But you do want to cater to LeBron, who helped you win a title back in 2020. I don't think LeBron leaves. I think there's been reports and rumors that LeBron could try to end his career on a different team. I don't think that's happening. I think he's going to return to the Lakers on the player option. Now, if LeBron is going to play another year after next year, wait till Bryce gets drafted. And Bryce is not the prospect that Bronny was. He's worse at the moment. So maybe he wants to play with Bryce as well. We'll see if that happens. But I would expect next year to be LeBron's last year, but you never know. Maybe he's going to play till 45 like Brady. Fred VanVleet is an interesting player as well. Fred VanVleet really showed up in the playoffs for the games in Golden State. In the playoffs, yeah, like, games, what was this? 4 through 6, 25 points, 26 points, 29 points. Even shot the ball fairly well compared to some of his teammates in game 7. I don't think they're going to pick up the team option, and I think they have to decide that very soon. It's like within the next 5 days. He's got a club option of $44 million, 29% of the team's total cap, in which the Rockets specifically do not have to. The Rockets do not need the cap space, so they could theoretically pick that up. It's 29% of the team's cap on a 1-year deal. Maybe they'd rather do that than decline it and give him a 3-year guaranteed contract. I just think the Rockets, I think they're going to decline it, and I think they're going to get an extension done. Maybe it's like a 3-year, $75 million deal. It gets you your starting point guard next year, because a lot of the guys they're going to be linked to this offseason, I don't think are going to be point guards. I don't think the Suns are trading Booker. Kevin Durant and Giannis are obviously forwards. I don't think they're getting Ja Morant or LaMelo Ball or Trae Young or any of those point guards that could be on the market. Therefore, I think you're slotting in probably Fred VanVleet as your starting point guard in the 2026 season. My 2K pipe dream would be somehow James Harden does a sign and trade to Houston. I think it would be cool. Just to finish out his career in Houston, and they do need a point guard, but that's probably not going to happen. So I think you re-sign Fred VanVleet. He comes back. He's 31 years old, right? He's 31. He'll be 31 most, if not all of next year's season, basically, or most of it, and he could be your starting point guard. They have some other decisions they're going to make this offseason as well that aren't in the free agency aspects. They have one notable free agent that we'll get to, in Steven Adams. But I would say for this team specifically, they're really looking to upgrade the team in the trade market. VanVleet can easily get to a Giannis contract or help you get there financially. Same with KD. And you could shed $44 million. I just don't think there's going to be a point or a player that they're going to give that money to in free agency unless they get a meeting with James Harden. We thought there was a chance Harden could return to the Rockets when they gave VanVleet that contract. So if it didn't happen then, I don't think it happens now. I assume he's happy in Los Angeles, and I think the Clippers still want to run this team back next year. But yeah, I do think VanVleet is going to be a Rocket in some way, shape, or form next year going forward. Kyrie, player option of $40 million. I think he's going to... I don't know. To be honest with you, it's really tough because of the injury. I do think he's going to opt out of the player option and sign like a 3-year 120, I would say, similar to maybe what Brandon Ingram just got. Making about $40 million a year. So it's technically a little bit of a pay cut from next year. He'd be losing out on $3 million next year, but he'd be guaranteeing himself another $120 million. And coming off the ACL tear, I think that'd be wise for probably Kyrie to take. As for the Mavericks, you kind of had no choice right now. It's not like you could create $40 million in flexibility to build around Luka Doncic. Clock is ticking on Anthony Davis. So unless you had something that could happen this offseason and you can replace Kyrie, there's just not a lot of, like, they're not going to have $40 million in cap space because this team has, like, not really cap space in general. They got to pay a lot of guys going forward as well because PJ Washington, Gafford, Lively, all going to be free agents after the end of next year's season. So we'll see if they're going to work out extensions with those guys. But either way, I do think Kyrie's going to be back with the Dallas Mavericks. James Harden, like I said, there's maybe a chance if him and the front office are far apart. We've seen fairly recently that they are not shy to let go or let one of their star players walk because they don't want to give them an extra year, while Paul George from 2024. So maybe there's a scenario. I think James Harden's going to opt out. He's going to get $80 million guaranteed at the minimum over 2 years, probably, or at least over 3 years from one team out there. Either it's the Clippers. If not the Clippers, it'll be a different team, given how good he played in the regular season. I know he didn't show up in Game 7, but he's still a good player for this day and age, and 23% of your cap for his production, which was an all-star point guard of the Western Conference, is worth it. Middleton has a $31 million player option. He is going to opt into that, or it's like 30, maybe $33 million. $34 million. Yeah, he's going to opt into that. Next up, you have Julius Randle, who has made himself some money in the playoffs for sure, I think. Now, Randle was not labeled as a good playoff performer. He ended up having some bad playoff series with the Knicks in 2021 against the Hawks. He wasn't great. He was healthy for that playoff series, but he was also like kind of the main guy on that team. Like he was the number one option. In that series, he averaged 18 points, 11 rebounds, shot 29% from the field, and 33% from 30. It was bad. Man, 29% is like worse than I remember. And then he wasn't great against Cleveland. He wasn't great against Miami, but was well reported that he was hurt. I think it was an ankle injury. Could be wrong, but he was banged up in those series. And now that he's healthy and he has some help offensively, he's playing very well. 38 minutes a night in those 5 games against the Lakers, 48-39 splits, 83 from the line. And he averaged 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. And he kind of got to the shots he wanted to against the Lakers. It will be tougher against Golden State because they are a better defense. But I think Randle, who does have a $30 million player option, and I think there was at a point where I thought he was going to opt into that and then try to play himself into another contract off that year. Maybe there was a trade and he was going to go somewhere else. Now he can get traded this offseason. But for Randle, man, it's tough because he could opt out, but the only way you're getting more money is if you're in a sign and trade. I don't think the Nets or the Jazz or the Wizards, the very few teams that have cap space out there, would sign Randle unless Detroit's front office really likes Randle. But I don't think they would give Randle, let's say Randle gets like 3 years for $90 million. Like, he would probably accept that. Like, $90 million guaranteed one more time in your career. Like, you definitely take that. Would Detroit want to do that? I don't know, but I think they're the one team that could make sense. Minnesota, like, there could be a reunion here. I think Minnesota's going to be in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes for sure, but they got some other free agents that we're going to talk about that I believe they'll prioritize, but I do think it's easier to bring back Randle than one of the other guys that we're going to talk about. John Collins, another guy. I think we'll have a robust market for a guy that can space the floor. As a center, he has a $26 million player option. Like I said, for Randle, kind of similar for Collins. Like, if he opts out, is he going to get $20 million a year from a team? Like, he might get the full mid-level, but I think he's a better player than that. So there could be some type of sign and trade this offseason. I think there are plenty of teams that would like John Collins' floor spacing ability. I think that could be interesting with Detroit getting a floor spacer at the 5 spot around Cade, or even like a power forward, and he's a better shooter just as good as Tobias Harris. I think the Orlando Magic could use John Collins as well because he's a better shooter than Wendell Carter Jr. I think Milwaukee could be interested in John Collins as well if they're trying to improve on the margins around Giannis. Brook Lopez, 37 years old, unrestricted free agent. I feel like Milwaukee should move on and go in a different direction. He signed that 2-year contract back in the 23 offseason. That was like when VanVleet and Brooks got signed. I don't think he's going to be back in Milwaukee. I think he could be a buy low candidate for the Lakers. I think the Pelicans would be interested in Brook Lopez. I just don't think Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's going to try to get a little bit younger and more athletic around Giannis. And I wouldn't be surprised if Giannis was the center next year going forward. Clint Capela, I think he would have a market as well. Indiana could maybe try to get him as a backup. I think, well, yeah, we'll get to Miles Turner. But the Lakers could be involved in Clint Capela for sure. New Orleans, I think they could be over Capela. Bruce Brown, I mean, he was kind of like the best player asset you got back for Brandon Ingram. So I do expect Bruce Brown to go back to the Pelicans on an extension. Still at 28 years old, hopefully fully healthy next year. He could be a nice role player, especially if they keep Zion and they don't take a step back. I don't think it's wise for them to try to be bad next year with Zion, right? Like, you want to be good, and I think Brown is a great 8th man to have if you shot him to like a 3-year, $24 million deal. Maybe it's a 1-year deal for Brown to really like kind of Cooper's value. Brogdon, I think, is just going to be a backup point guard somewhere. Maybe it's Dallas, maybe it's the Clippers, maybe it's the Suns, and he's like Tyus Jones 2.0 over there. Miles Turner, like, I don't think he's going to leave the Pacers, man. He's been with the Pacers since the 2015 NBA draft. He's been great for their playoff run so far. And he's the anchor of that defense. And I just think like the city of Indiana likes him too much. Unless he says, I want $40 million a year. And the ownership is like, I don't want to be a tax team. Maybe that's the reason why Miles Turner isn't back. They could get probably a nice haul for him in a sign and trade. But unless like they're not getting Giannis, they could be a KD team. But I think if they get KD, they want to keep Turner. They're an interesting KD team, but they would have to like throw in Obi, Mathurin. It is tough to get there if Nembhard, Halliburton, Siakam, and Turner aren't involved. And I'm sure they'd like to build a foundation with that foursome, or excuse me, that fivesome going forward. Tim Hardaway Jr., I think we can kind of lump him and some of the Pistons guys in together. So that will be Malik Beasley, who is a free agent. Where's Malik? He's making $6 million. To be honest with you, I'd rather pay Tim Hardaway Jr. $7 million for maybe 2 years than give Malik Beasley $60 million. I'm a little scared about that because I do think that this could be Malik Beasley's best year of his career, and I would love to have him back in Detroit if I were the Pistons, but I don't want to overpay for him. You're only going to have this amount of cap space for much longer, right? Because Cade's extension's kicking in. Ivy may need a new contract if you're going to pay him. Same with Duren. Asar Thompson in 2 years. I think you should try to have as much cap flexibility, and I would like to bring back Malik Beasley. 4 years, 60, a little bit much, but we'll see if you could do. I mean, if you can bring down the years, but keep the annual value that high, I'm fine with that. Like 3-year 45, 2-year 30, all over that. But committing 4 years, $60 million for Malik Beasley, I just don't know how I feel about that. Going forward, I think I bring back Tim Hardaway Jr., good veteran in the locker room, wants to play hard, and it seemed like he enjoyed playing in Detroit this year. And I think Dennis Schroeder would be a good point guard to bring back. You don't know how Ivy's going to look right away next year after a major injury this year. And I think he's a really good backup point guard for Cade Cunningham that could just really be a pest out there. Can pick up like somebody like Jalen Brunson for the full court, make his life a little bit more challenging. And I think also just like appreciates there in Detroit. So 2-year deal to Cade, or 2-year deal to Schroeder, 2-year deal to Tim Hardaway Jr. is what I would do if I were the Pistons. Be a little bit skeptical about giving a long-term money deal to Beasley. Like, what if the Nets gave him $65 million? A little bit scared about that. Duncan Robinson is coming back to Miami, or he's getting traded. They could waive him actually because it is not a non-full guaranteed contract. It is an early termination option. Not many of these left in the NBA. So he can get $19 million if they keep him, but if they cut him, they only have to pay him, I think it's around $9 million. So yeah, $9.8 million. Honestly, Miami, but like, do you want to take a $10 million hit to have him not on your team? I think they may try to be bad next year when they really look at the bigger picture. D'Lo, I could see him back in Brooklyn. Or it's like a Suns deal. He's friends with Devin Booker. Maybe it's like a Tyus Jones prove a contract. Not really the worst idea if you're Phoenix, to be honest with you. Caris LeVert, I think he's going to be back in Atlanta. I think he was a good fit and good addition for that team. Luke Kennard, I think could have a pretty robust market for some shooting. I think like you look at Orlando, that could make sense. I know you could predict or any team to get Luke Kennard. Maybe it's like a Gary Trent Jr. 1-year playoff deal like in Milwaukee. I think Luke Kennard could end up there. A team that's trying to compete. Naz Reid, so that's a big Timberwolves free agent. He has like a $14 million player option, $15 million. He's opting out of that. He can get a decent amount of money. He's getting more than the mid-level exception. Now, does that happen in Minnesota? You would like to think so. I mean, he's beloved by the city. He was up and down against the Lakers in round number 1. The full numbers were 11 points, 52 from the field, 50% from 3. I think you wonder if you are actually going to pay him like a true number 2. Like, say you don't get KD, say Randle is gone, and you bring back Reed and the other guy we'll get to. Can you expect Reed to be a 20-point per game scorer and the efficiency to stay relatively the same? I think he could do it. And how much is that worth in the offseason? Could Reed get to 6 figures? 9 figures. Could he get a $100 million deal? Could there be a 5-year, $100 million deal for Reed? 4 years, $100 million. I don't think the annual value would go ahead of $25 million. I'm not saying he's Jalen Brunson, but could there a team be like, all right, we can tap into Reed a little bit, and he could be a borderline all-star with our squad? I mean, thinking about teams off the top of my head, I would he could he could probably actually headline a Kevin Durant trade. If we're being honest, I think he would be great in Phoenix. I think Brooklyn could be on Naz Reid. I know Sean Marks said that they don't want to do like a full-on rebuild again, like a complete overhaul, like it was post KG and Paul Pierce. Just trying to think of like, I don't know how the Kings would get involved. The Pelicans, maybe if there's like a Zion trade. Like there are some teams that I think would give Reed also that money. Maybe Detroit, right? Like if Detroit thinks he could space the floor and be that guy next to Cade, that's who they go after. So yeah, Minnesota, they're a second apron team. They're going to have to worry about Naz Reid's price going up. That's why I could see a Randle trade, because maybe they can move Conley. Probably not going to move Gobert. Finney Smith, I think right now he's going to opt in. I mean, there could be an opt-out on like a 2-year extension, where it's just like a 2-year, $30 million deal where he guarantees himself another $15 million. Because if he opts out, I don't think he's going to get as high as $15 million on the open market, but I'm going to see him back in LA. We're going to talk about Shooter. Steven Adams is one of the playoff risers. I mean, they're done, but we saw him really, I think, improve his value throughout the playoffs and how important he was to that Rockets team. Plus 16 in a loss, plus 15 in a win, plus 15 in a win, was plus 1 in a loss where he only played 18 minutes. But he's a really good playmaker for somebody of his size. Really good screen setter, good passer, great rebounder, just a smart player overall and a nice touch around the rim. Somebody was saying like he could get the full mid-level exception from Houston. That would be a lot of money. I don't think he's going to get that much, like a 4-year, $60 million deal. But I could see like, he's 31. Like he's a young 31, it feels like, in the NBA. Like, could Adams get like 3 for 45? There's a potential chance that happens. I think if it's not in Houston, some team will give him that going forward. So we'll see. I think, yeah, Adams definitely made himself some money throughout the playoffs. Marvin Bagley is probably just going to sign a 1-year deal somewhere. I think I may just pitch everybody to Milwaukee or Phoenix on a 1-year deal to recoup your value. Bobby Portis, I'd like to see him on my Knicks, funny enough. I think they could use his intensity, but he's got a $13 million player option. I think Milwaukee could, like, he's going to opt out, but I think Milwaukee could look to re-sign him if they move on from Brook Lopez. Chris Boucher, I think there'd be a market for him. Maybe that's a Laker. Thibault, player option, he's opting back. Mo Wagner, I believe it's a club option. He's going to be back in Orlando. Ingles might retire. Nance, I think, could find a nice home there in Atlanta. I think Nance Jr. could be all over, or Nance Jr. New Orleans could be all over Nance. Lakers, teams that need a center. Chris Paul, I'd like to see him on a team that can contend next year. Maybe that is the Spurs, but we'll see. Phoenix comes calling again. Al Horford, I think he's going to be back in Boston. I think he's got maybe 1 year left. And we'll see like the unfinished business tweet. Trey Jones, I think, should have a good market. I'd like, if they miss out on like Ty Jerome or one of those guys, I think Orlando, who also can use a point guard, and allow Jalen Suggs to be more of a 2. Milwaukee, that could be a nice spot for Trey Jones as well, where he's going to get a ton of playing time. And Kevin Porter Jr. is also a free agent. Pat Connaughton has a player option. He'll be back. Gary Payton, I think he could be like a Chris Dunn level signing. Does he have, is it full? I think he's like a full and unrestricted free agent. No, $9 million, or no, yeah, he exercised the player option. So I think he can go in a different direction, but I'm sure he likes to play in Golden State. He found his way back there. Kelly Oubre, I think, will be back in Philly. And then kind of just going through some more notable guys. Josh Giddey is somebody that maybe would have a market, depending on where some of the lottery balls end up and teams think they need a point guard. Brooklyn, Washington, Utah could be interested in Josh Giddey, but I do think he's going to end up re-signing with the Bulls. I think a fascinating free agent is going to be Jonathan Kuminga, who at one point thought he could maybe get $100 million based off his season last year in 2024. We'll see how much he plays against the Timberwolves in round number 2, but it has not helped his value this year. Now, he's a restricted free agent, so these guys never really play on the qualifying offer. The QO. So we'll see what Kuminga ends up doing, but I think he could be dangled as a sign and trade piece. If the Warriors feel like we have another year of this window with Jimmy, Steph, and Draymond, we can actually get a good return for Jonathan Kuminga. I already hit on Malik Beasley. I think Davion Mitchell is a perfect Miami Heat, and he's going to get a nice payday from him. I'd like to see Nick Batum back in Los Angeles. I think he was really good for them this year. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, somebody that I think could get the full mid-level exception out there. I think there are a lot of teams that would really like Nah on their squad. Charlotte, I think he would be a really good fit where he can get an increase in playing time. Still young and could be a good fit in between LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. I think it's Canadian, right? Like you can get him up north with the Raptors. You can get him to Philadelphia. San Antonio may have some money to spend, and I think Nah could really be a good fit there. I'm sure Minnesota wants to bring them back, but I feel like with their financial position, and we'll see how far they go in the playoffs, could they bring back everybody and be a second apron team again? But there are some risks to that. Or, like, what 2 out of the 3 are you keeping? I assume they'd want to keep Reed, number 1, obviously, and then you're deciding between Nah and Randle. And that's, I think, the big question mark this offseason. I think Trey Mann's going to get re-signed by the Hornets. I think I'd like to see Russ back in Denver. Like, give Russ, I don't know off the top of my head what they could fully offer him. He's opting out of that $3 million player option. He's been a very good player in the playoffs. What were Russ's final numbers? Because he shot the ball well from 3 against the Clippers in round 1. It is cool that Russ's first 2 playoff series are against former teams. I know he's played for a couple teams now, but still, Clippers and Thunder back-to-back. So he averaged 13 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists in round number 1, 43 from the field, 41 from 3. They had such a big win the other night. Yeah, I think I would like to see Russ back in Dallas, back in Denver. I was going to say, if he leaves Denver, the Dallas point guard until Kyrie gets back, I don't hate that. And we're basically going with, like, the 2018 All-Stars of Kyrie, Clay, maybe Russ and AD, one last go. And then that would be kind of hilarious if, like, Kyrie and Russ can get, or no, Russ would be the only guy with no ring, because AD, Clay, and Kyrie all obviously have. Any other intriguing free agents down here? Spencer Dinwiddie, I think, has found a comfortable home in Dallas. I think he'll be back there. Isaiah Jackson will be an intriguing free agent out there. That might be a Lakers play. Pacers maybe bring him back and he can kind of rehab there fully and be the backup center next year as a restricted free agent. But the Pacers are not usually a tax team. Tyus Jones, maybe Orlando. Maybe they take a chance on him. Utah or Washington, maybe a reunion there if they don't end up with a point guard in the draft. Taurean Prince, I think just kind of one of those veteran minimums, just for depth. Maybe New York, I would like that. Quentin Grimes, I think, okay, so he's an intriguing free agent. He's going to get, I think, a $100 million deal offer sheet from, like, the Nets or the Pistons. I don't know, one of those teams. And I think Philly will match it. I think they have to, unless it's, like, $30 million a year. And they're like, whoa, okay, I don't know about this. Maybe there's a sign and trade on the table if they can upgrade a player. But I think Grimes is going to be back in Philly. He was too good. I think Luke Cornett is going to have a market as well, man. Like, solid rim protector, inside presence. He can get like $5 million a year over 2 years. 2 year, $10 million. And Boston, with their cap restraint, cannot give him that. So I think he could be gone next year. Gary Trent Jr. and Cam Thomas. I think Cam Thomas is going to end up being back in Brooklyn, but I think they'd be okay letting him walk or getting something in a sign and trade. I think Gary Trent Jr. might get the mid-level exception from Milwaukee. He was so good for them in the playoffs. I think there'd be robust markets for Sharp and Aldama. I think Aldama's going to be back in Memphis. I think Sharp, teams that need a center. Pelicans, Lakers, I know I've said them a bunch in this video. Chicago, depending on what they do with Vooch. Ty Jerome. Now, this is a free agent. Like, Cleveland has to pay more money to Mobley now because he just won Depoy. This has Orlando written all over it. Brooklyn, Utah, who's another team off the top of my head that could... I mean, like, every team could use a Ty Jerome. Now, I would also be a little hesitant about Ty Jerome playing 23 minutes a night sounds great as your backup point guard. Ty Jerome playing 34 minutes a night, I think there's some risk to that. But if you get your full mid-level exception, there are far worse talents that have gone the full mid-level in the past. So, yeah, I'm perfectly okay giving Ty Jerome that. And I feel like he could be a Miami Heat or an Orlando Magic next year. Kevin Porter Jr. might just be back in Milwaukee. It feels like if they keep Giannis, they're going to try to get guys like that. I think Sandro could have a market as well. Center that could space the floor. I'm sure San Antonio would like to have him back. AJ Green, I think he's got a team option. Is he showing up here? No, he's under contract, $2 million next year. So why are they saying he's a free agent? I do not know. He's a 2027 free agent. Maybe it's not fully guaranteed. That's why. I think Caleb Houston, Gershon, I think could be back in Philly. I'm still intrigued about Lonnie Walker. Just trying to see guys I'm intrigued with that are unrestricted free agents. Shamet may have a market. And I think that may be it. Maybe Ben Simmons as well, but I think he'll be back in Los Angeles. So yeah, that was me basically just talking about the upcoming free agency class. I think some guys made some money throughout the playoffs. Maybe guys like Steven Adams, and Dennis Schroeder. I know Nickeil Alexander-Walker hasn't shot the ball too well in the playoffs, but I still think there's going to be a very strong market for him. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you're listening on YouTube, I really appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. We're almost at 20K subscribers on YouTube. And then if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, appreciate a rating and review over there as well. The podcast is continuing to grow on audio platforms. And hey, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube and you want to listen to this on a walk or at the gym or in your car, audio links down below in the description. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.